I'm joined by Bill Mander, who is Harris Manchester's Dean. Bill, welcome and hello.
Thanks, Ashley.
So, Bill, I suppose my first question, the title Dean is used in a lot of different contexts to mean lots and lots of different things, and students may not fully understand what a Dean actually is. So what is your role as Dean?
That's right. So in Oxford, the Dean is the person in charge of discipline, or rather, I should say, non-academic discipline. So obviously, if there are any issues concerning with student work, that will be for the senior tutor, Leslie Smith, to deal with. But everything else to do with discipline falls to me as the Dean.
Great. So I suppose that involves enforcing various college rules.
That involves enforcing the rules. So that's the first thing you need to think about is what are the rules. And I suppose there are probably three sets of rules that people need to know about. So first of all, there are the kind of university rules, and these you can find in the university student handbook. It's all up on the web. All of these things are up on the web. They mainly concern conduct in examinations, and these are dealt with by the university officials called the proctors. Now, the second set of things you need to know about are the kind of rules that you find in the college handbook. Again, these is all up on the web. So these are the ones that people need to know about in college. They're all really common sense. I mean, you do need to go and have a look at them, but there's really nothing here very surprising. It's mainly kind of common sense and consideration for others. So I suppose there are a number of things I could just sort of very briefly mention. So we have certain policies about harassment, about consent, about freedom of speech, about computer use. So you need to make sure that you know what the college policy is on all these things. We also, of course, as you would expect, have an absolute zero policy, zero tolerance on things like drugs and weapons. Certain rules about computer use as well you need to make sure you know about. The other two things I mentioned, much more likely things. I mean, we have sort of rules about kind of noise and consideration for others. I mean, where it was a small community, it's very easy for us all, to make noise and disturb each other. So we do try to have some rules about that. The other thing that I perhaps I would draw people's attention to is fire alarms. I can't believe I have to say this, but even every year I do, there is somebody who decides that it might be a clever idea to put something over the smoke detectors, and so we obviously have rules about that sort of thing as well. The third set of rules, and this I think particularly applies at the moment, that students do all need to know, is you will have all had to sign the student charter on COVID, and I think that's going to be important. So you do need to make sure you know what are the rules about that.
Yes, so that's the student responsibility agreement that we've asked all freshers and all students, and indeed all members of the college staff to sign.
Yeah, absolutely, everyone. This is a university-wide agreement. We all need to abide by this.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example, I suppose, of a point you did mention in passing, which is the idea of consideration for others. And I suppose that's something that kind of goes beyond a set of rules. It is more about a mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about our coming together as a community, looking out for each other. I mean, these are slight restrictions on things you might or might not want to do, but overwhelmingly far more important it is about us all looking after each other.
Yeah, I think that's a really sort of central and important point, and I suppose also explains why we bother to have these systems and why we have a role like that of Dean, to try and maintain a sense of community and community responsibility.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the other thing, of course, that kind of goes with rules, as you would expect, is sanctions. You can't really have a set of rules unless there are some sanctions. And so, obviously, as Dean, I do have a set of sanctions available to me. I'm kind of reluctant to use them. We don't have a great deal of discipline requirements in the college. It's the best job in college, actually, and I have to do very, very little. I have to say this. For the most part, people behave wonderfully, and I don't get called on to do too much as Dean. But as I say, I do have a set of sanctions. So I mean, if there are problems, and this would start off with things like formal warnings and fines, which we sometimes have to do. But ultimately, I mean, it can progress to more serious things. And if there are persistent problems, students can be asked to to leave college accommodation, they can be barred from the college grounds, and in the very last resort, they can, of course, be expelled. So, you do need to be aware that actions can have consequences. But as I say, I very rarely have to do anything like that.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. I guess you're not doing all of this on your own. There are also junior deans. Could you say a little bit about what their role is?
Yeah, so I tend to be in college most days, but I'm obviously, I don't live in college, so I'm not there the whole time. So I am assisted by two very excellent junior deans, Ian McDowell and Ross Gales, and certainly, for instance, in the evening, I mean, these are the people that you're more likely to encounter. So they're both splendid people, and they have my full support and backing. So please do as they say if they ask you to do something. But really, I mean, in fact, their role tends to be much more welfare. They don't tend to have to do a great deal of policing. They're much more likely to be the sort of people that you would approach it, if you have some kind of problems, and who keep an eye on people to make sure that they don't have any problems.
Great, thank you very much, Bill. And just to finish, a couple of questions that I'm asking everybody I'm speaking to in this series. First of all, what's your favourite thing about Harris Manchester?
So my favourite thing about the college is the community. I think it's just a wonderful community. It's a very small, friendly group of people. Everybody gets on. And I think this is really amazing, given the fact that everyone is so different. One of the things I love about mature students is they are all so different. They all come from all kinds of varieties of different places, but they actually all do seem to get on marvellously. So I love the community.
Yeah, I think that's shared enterprise of coming together to learn and study. Can be a useful bridge, can't it, between sort of different backgrounds and experiences.
I think that's right. That's the one thing they all have in common, is that they're different from everyone else.
And then the final question, what, if anything, can you remember about your own Freshers' Week?
So I do remember my own Freshers' Week. This was a long time ago in London at UCL. And my Freshers' Week was absolutely miserable, because when I arrived at college, the one thing I knew is that I didn't want to do what I was studying, or I was supposed to be studying, which was geography. And so I spent the entire week trying to persuade them not to let me do geography and to let me do philosophy instead. And I didn't even know whether I was going to be allowed to do that. So I spent the entire week worrying about this. But fortunately, they did allow me to, and the rest is history.
Yes, it just turned out to have been a sensible decision on their part.
No, but I'm always very sympathetic to all mature students who want to change courses, because this was exactly my situation.
Fortunately, we don't admit for geography, so I don't think anybody can feel maligned by that response. Bill, thank you very much for talking to me.
That's good to talk to you, actually.